My name is David Forney. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the convener of Working Group 6 in SC 35. Working Group 6 is responsible for work that directly relates to accessibility. In my life outside of ISO, I am a IT accessibility specialist. I provide consulting services to a whole variety of clients who are seeking ideas, approaches, solutions to accessibility challenges in their products and services. So what I want to talk to you about today is a new series of standards that we're just starting on around AAC, around augmentative and alternative communication, of which Subhas's Pictograms is one area. So with respect to our work already in SD 35 around accessibility, and in particular in WG6, our media standards primarily serve the needs of people who can use natural languages. So people who are able to access systems and services through reading or typing or some other media or modality. And so this is great if your natural language is supported by ICT. Doesn't work so well if your language is one of the 7,000 that are not. So we have a series of standards. The Working Group 6 has about 20 published standards right now. Of them, a half fall under the 20071 series. And I've listed them all here, but the highlights in here are the areas where we're really focusing on accessibility. So part 11, for example, is text alternatives for images. That's a standard on alternate text. We have guidance on audio descriptions, part 21. Part 23 is about captioning. Part 24 is currently in development. It's a sign language standard. It's how do we put sign language onto the screen and make it meaningful and useful for people who sign. Part 25 is audio description of text on the screen. And part 31, well, the author of part 31 spoke to us earlier. This is our kiosk accessibility standard, which we're currently in the middle of. But we have unmet needs. We have areas that we still need to fill around accessibility and ICT. And one of those is in AAC. There are people who are nonverbal, either because they were born nonverbal, maybe they have a high level of autism and they're just not able to work with natural language, or they became nonverbal as a result of acquired disability. Maybe they have a head injury or aphasia or stroke. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the human community has in excess of 7,000 languages. Google only really supports around 240, 250 of them at present. So if your language, if your primary mode of communication is not supported by ICT, you need other ways to communicate, and you need other ways to communicate through ICT. And so this is one of the places where AAC, augmentative and alternative communication, comes in. AAC provides a means for people who can't use an ICT supported language to communicate with other people or with use of what we call a story, a string of information, or with other ICT applications. And so AAC's work by using communication systems like pictograms. So you string pictograms together to construct an utterance. So think of a sentence, but a sentence that doesn't necessarily have a syntactical system. It's simply a series of concepts. Or think of, for example, a communication board. You might have a series of pictograms on a board, and you point to, one or more of those pictograms to express something. And then that utterance of pictograms can be shared with someone or some other application instead of text, or indeed, it can be converted to text, or it can be converted to speech, something like that. And so for this work, we started on the 20071 4X series. And we have two documents already in draft. The plan structure for this series is a series of technical specifications and technical reports that start at the number 40 as a very high level document, just sort of setting the scene and providing core information for all the other documents and standards. And then going on into the design and use of different systems, the use of different forms of text information, how AAC can be translated into natural languages, how we might use it for face-to-face communication, remote communication, or indeed accessible narratives. And so, as I was saying earlier, two of those documents are already in the process of going through ISO's hopper. One of them is Part 40. This is our intro document. It provides an introduction and high-level guidance to the overall series, and provides a sense of what is augmentative and alternative communication. Primarily, it provides definitions, an introduction to the concepts, some basic guidance related to the concepts, and then an overall introduction to the series. Part 41 gets us diving into the series. And in particular, it focuses on the design and use of pictograms, photos, icons, and other symbols as part of an AAC. So it provides a high-level introduction to the visual components of AAC, and then guidance on those different types of media components. Going forward, we intend to do a whole bunch of work and a whole variety of additional parts of the standard. So at some point in the next year or so, we will be putting forward Part 42, which is a core set of pictograms. And then within that core set, we will have a series of, we will have information on the series of national additions to the core set. So the core set is already built in a way that can be internationalized, and that will be expressed through the standard. Part 43 will talk about the use of various forms of text information in AAC, how you can combine pictograms and text, how you can convert pictograms to text. Because text is a lot easier for those of us who work with natural written languages than a pictogram might be. Pictogram might be obvious when you're looking at it, but not necessarily obvious when you're trying to express something. Part 44, we'll talk about translating an AAC utterance into another language. So how can we support people who are using AAC to communicate to someone who doesn't use the same language as them? So for example, I don't speak Korean. Maybe I can use a series of pictograms to help translate a concept or a request to someone who does speak Korean. Part 45 is focused on face-to-face messaging. This part will deal with guidance on dealing with design for systems used by pairs of people or groups of people. So think of, for example, chat apps that allow you to come together as a group and engage in a conversation. Part 46 will talk about remote AAC messaging. Same idea, but remote interaction. So instead of having 2 or 3 people in a room sharing an application and talking to each other as a group, you would have, multiple people in multiple spaces globally, and they would be doing that from a remote perspective. Part 47 talks about narratives. Narratives is a particular concept to AAC that is an expression of utterances to form a larger concept or a larger story. And this particular standard will be highlighting that particular form of the technology and expression. And finally, part 48, we'll talk about how to build accessible narratives, because there's currently no particularly good ICT system to support users of AAC to actually create multi-utterance narratives. As Subhas was saying earlier, this approach to communication has to be usable across a lifespan, from a very young age to a very old age. We cannot simply build a system and allow a kid to use it and then pull it away from them when they graduate high school and tell them to go off into their adult lives with no method of support for communication. The system has to be in place for a lifetime. And so by building a standard, thinking about what these systems can look like and how they can best support people from a lifespan perspective, the standard is going to help people in the long run. So, long story short, we at Working Group 6 have recognized the need for standards in augmentative and alternative communications. We have developed a structure of this set of standards. We have drafted the first two parts, so we've already kicked off this project. We're already in build mode. We recognize that this thing is going to take multiple years to get done, and we are looking for help. We are looking for people who are experts in AAC, who are experts in ITT accessibility, who want to work on this particular series of standards. This is not the only standard series we're working on. As I said earlier, we are working on the sign language standard. We're working on updating existing standards on alt text. We'll be updating existing standards on captioning. We'll be updating existing standards on audio description. And we have so many other standards that I'm sure the people that are in this room are going to tell me, hey, we should be doing something new and something better and some new topic. So as I said, I'm David Schwarning. This is the work that we're doing. I'm glad to lead this work with all of you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.